Recording in progress. Hello, everyone. As we wait for folks to come in, I think it's a rainy day in New York. It's pouring,
Oh,
and
is it really?
it's pouring. That's why it's
We
so
had
dark.
we
I've
had
got my
we
ring
got
light on.
we had we had what they called an aggressive drizzle last yesterday.
Such
An
California.
aggressive drizzle. It was like 0.03 inches of rain, is
I
what they
love
said.
that.
That's what I went outside yesterday. It's literally what it felt like. It was a very aggressive drizzle. The
Such
windows got wet,
California.
the ground was wet, there was water in the air, but it was
Yeah,
like, and it wasn't fog, but it was overcast. It was weird. It was weird.
I love that. That's so
Yeah,
California.
today it's beautiful. Today we got sun, it's clouds, no clouds, no clouds.
I'm so jealous. Well, we were talking about our summer vacations, and now I'm craving summer vacations. But where did you go this summer?
Oh, this summer, back, let's see, like back in June, like we were vaccinated and we ended up going to Disney World, like first week of June.
Nice.
So did a little Disney World trip, did Epcot, did Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Rise of the Resistance. Highly recommended if you have not.
Oh.
If you're a Star Wars fan, there is one at Disneyland in Anaheim as well. It is probably the best ride experience. I can't really call it a ride because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not really a ride. It's many rides. It's more.
Okay.
I would go in with no spoilers, enjoy it for what it is. It's one of the best things. It's just Disney's amazing at what they do, and then when you pair the amazingness of Disney with Star Wars, you get and having grown up with Star Wars, you get a really cool experience.
That's awesome. All right, you sold me. I'm going just for that ride.
Rise of the Resistance.
Well, welcome everyone. This is episode 3 of our Lightning Talk series on data-driven management. So excited that you're here with us. I know it's early in the morning for the West Coast. This event is sponsored by Scratchpad, and Scratchpad is the easiest way to update and manage your pipeline in Salesforce. Link is in there. Like never before, you can get started in about 30 seconds. But this lightning talk format, it's a bit different than our typical digital events. We've pulled together the best data-driven minds, including Dawn, who is here with us today, to talk about everything from developing a data-driven mindset to the right metrics for growth and alignment. And we'll spend about 20 minutes with each of our brilliant speakers in each episode. And we're going to talk lightning fast about one of these topics. And today we're going to talk about how good automation and tech help with data drivenness. This event is hosted by the team at Modern Sales Pros. That's one of me. And our mission is to help members answer questions they might struggle to solve on their own. And we have great live sessions like the one you're at today. We've got an awesome forum and hopefully in the future, in-person events. Can't wait to get back to those. And if you like this content, you will like our Revenue Excellence Summit that's coming up in about 2 weeks, which is terrifying because I'm helping to plan that. That's October 12th through 14th, and we're going to be talking about annual planning and the people and the process and the technology that you need to get ready for 2022. So back to today. We have the all-star of data-driven management, the VP of RevOps at Lean Data. Don Ontvos is here to talk about good tech and automation. And welcome, Don. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Don Ontvos. I'm the VP Revenue Operations at Lean Data. Been a MSP member, I think, since the beginning. I think there's a really good blog that First Round Capital does for startups, and Pete was a contributor for that, and I got asked to do an interview to talk about sales operations. And then somebody at First Round was like, "Hey, you need to meet Pete. He's trying to like get all these RevOps people together to like just not have to reinvent the wheel, and he's putting a group together and they're having a dinner." And they had a dinner at the First Round office in Soma in San Francisco. And that was like the first meeting of what has now grown into MSP. And so I have always found MSP, the way that Pete has put it together, to be very valuable, useful resource, for again, not having to reinvent the wheel, right? Like everybody in RevOps, I think, has struggled with the same things. And, MSP ends up being a great channel to go to say, hey, I'm struggling with X. I'm thinking of these different products. what has everyone else done? And then like you'll get a wealth of replies. And what's amazing about it is very tightly monitored. So I can't go on there and talk and rave about lean data. If someone's asking about matching and routing, like I can talk about other things that I'm using, but I'll get my hand slapped if I self-promote. So it's a very tightly moderated forum, which makes it a very, very valuable resource. So I've always been a happy member of MSP.
Yes, I love that you plugged that. Well, we're super excited to have you here and get into the conversation. And like I said, we'll be talking about good automation and tech and how that helps with data drivenness. So I'm going to pop in the Zoom link here if you want to invite your friends or your colleagues. This is what we'll be going through pretty briefly. We're going to talk about the processes that should be automated and the most important tech to help with that, and then evaluating that tech and figuring out what needs change or improvement. So I'm going to cut the slides and we'll just dive right in. The first series, or the first episode that we had with Pete, he kind of laid the groundwork about how to even build a data-driven mindset. He gave us the tips for that. And then Brad Smith was our second episode, and he said, okay, let's put all of the things you just learned and talk about how to instill that in your leadership. And now we're shifting to this tech piece. So we've got our basics down. And Dawn, how do we figure out how to even identify what processes need automation?
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy has always been to look at this as, I'm one of those rare RevOps people that came out of sales, right? So I was a salesperson, I was an SDR. I hated doing things in Salesforce, right? No salesperson likes Salesforce or their CRM, right? So my approach has always been, I want to make life as easy as possible for the rep and the manager as I can. So I always approach these problems as, I want to automate as many things as humanly possible without, encumbering the reps to have to do manual things, right? And so, like one of the basic things that I've done and one of the tools that I've used that I've found to be very valuable, that seems to be a very low knowledge, like a lot of people haven't thought of this or know about it, is the fact that, your salespeople and your managers, they're interacting with a lot of folks, right? At your prospects, at your customers. They're talking to a lot of different people at that organization. When they get into a sales discussion, they may be talking to a decision maker, and certainly that person might be the main point of contact on an opportunity. But then there's also probably at least 6, 7, 8 other people that are indirectly or directly involved with that decision-making process. The person that has to sign, the person who's got to approve the budget. You probably have to go through legal. So you're talking to someone on the legal team. It's probably, if you're SaaS, it has to go through security. You're probably talking to someone on the IT team, right? These people are pretty important in the overall sales process, but they rarely does a sales rep go, oh, I got to make sure I add this person to CRM, right? They're not going to go back and add this person back to the database, right? So one of the first things that I did when I was getting into RevOps is like, those people are important. I want to get those people in the database for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, they're great for the marketing team, right? Like I want to make sure that these names, these personas are available to the marketing demand gen team, so that we can make sure that they're getting our content, they're consuming, things that we're putting out there. The other thing is, companies spend a lot of money on data enrichment, right? Like you look at the companies that are out there, and you have to buy credits, and you got to do these exports to Salesforce. Well, if your salespeople already talk to these people, why should you spend money on buying the name that you probably already have sitting somewhere in an inbox or a calendar event that someone was added to a meeting, right? So I was trying to think of it of like, how do I get the stuff that's in people's email boxes into Salesforce, right? So that was like the first thing that I tackled. And the tool that I looked at that I like, there's a couple, right? One of them is People AI, right? People.ai, if you're familiar with it. They do that, right? They'll look at your mailbox, they look at your calendar, they identify all these people so that you can bring them into your CRM. The problem is people.ai, they don't sell to small companies. So when I approach people.ai, they're like, oh, you're just a startup. We don't sell to startups. You're going to have to go like look at someone else. So the other company I looked at was Ebsta. It's EBSTA. So Ebsta, they have a service account that sits on your mail server. You add all your sales team to the service account, and then it just looks at the metadata. It doesn't even read the content. So you don't even have to worry about, people like, oh, I don't want all my content in my email going into Salesforce. It's like, it's okay. We're just looking to see the to, the from, the who, the when, the name, the email. Because the thing is, if you have a good enrichment provider, right? I mean, I think Clearbit, ZoomInfo, these companies do this. You just need the email. And then from the email, someone can go, oh, here, you're don.otvos@leandata.com. We know who you are. You're the VP of RevOps. Here's your phone number. Here's where you're Santa Clara, and then all that information can get pulled into Salesforce automatically, right? Mm-hmm. So now I have a process that says, if someone, adds a name, an email, in a meeting or exchanges an email, now I have a way to pull that person into Salesforce by just the email. That's all I need. And then once that person's identified, I get the enrichment from ZoomInfo. I get the, or Clearbit or whatever data enrichment provider that you're using. And then Lean Data, amazingly, we'll do the matching and routing so that we get that person assigned to the right person in your organization. And then that person is available to be marketed to. And then they're in the sales process. A sales rep can then easily add them as a contact role. A sales manager can easily identify that person as being involved in the sales process. And then you're starting to give, a more multi-threaded view of the opportunities that your sales team is working on. So that's like one example of like, where I've automated something where, it's very painful to get sales reps to try to get them to add the names of the people they're talking to Salesforce, right? They don't want to do it. It's not their main job. It's data entry at the end of the day. So, it was one of the big things that I wanted to tackle, at organizations that I've been in. I mean, I did this at SalesLoft. I did this at, now I'm doing it at Lean Data. And it ends up at the end of the day, I've when someone goes, oh, well, justify the spend on this thing, Ebsta, what's Ebsta? I don't know what it is. I think like in the year and a half I've been at Lean Data, I think we've pulled in close to 15,000 names of people that our sales team has talked to, our CSMs have talked to, our SCs have talked to, our implementations people, it's names across the board. And it's all names that are in our system that we now don't have to go purchase through another system. And they're names that we have in our system early so that we can make sure that we're marketing to them from a persona-based marketing approach. If you're taking an account-based approach, you want to know about your personas. If you have a security person, we want to make sure we're sending the right information from a marketing perspective on Lean Data security. If you're a legal person, we're going to have marketing content and assets we're going to send to you so that, we can really take a very thorough approach as to how we market to those folks. And so, from a marketing perspective, they love, what I've been able to do for that. Sales teams love it because they don't have to manually add these people to Salesforce anymore. They just appear, right? We run a process every week to pull those people into Salesforce that we know that are identified by Ebsta, but not in the system. And there's a list that we can generate on a weekly basis and then just mass import them as a CSV file. So that's like one thing that I've done, and trying to make life as easy as possible for the sales rep and the sales managers.
I love that you say it so simply. That's one thing that you've done, but that's a huge process that came out of you just identifying like kind of a simple problem, right? And then it's just changed the lives of so many people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like it's been, I mean, once people understand what it is that so there's an education piece to it too, right? Because they're like, wait, what's happening? Where are these names coming from? Like they're on the mail server. Why, how meetings, like once you walk them through the process and they understand that, how it's happening and where, when they see the Ebsta, they know what it means. Right. And so that's just one, one process that I've, tried to automate, as part of that whole philosophy of, I want to make it as easy as possible, and as less, the least amount of input required from sales managers and sales reps, in order to provide the data that I need to provide to management. It's that balance of trying to achieve that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, there is some manual stuff they're going to have to do, right?
Right.
But if you can automate as much as possible, and make the sales reps' lives easier, they're just going to be that much more productive and successful at what they're doing.
Yeah. I love what you said about that education process, right? Because there's so much tech out there and there's so many.
Oh yeah. What is this doing? Why am I using this? What is it? Yeah. Cause I mean, again, right. Like there is a window for EBSTA that will identify all the email activity. And so people see this EBSTA window pop up in Salesforce. They're like, what is this? Why, what is this EBSTA thing? What is it doing? And then once they understand it, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because then, not the other challenge, of course, is like, not every email gets logged, right? Not every meeting gets logged. And EBSTA is connected to the mail server. It doesn't miss anything, right? So if something doesn't get logged to Salesforce, but you see it in EBSTA, you know that it happened, right? So if someone says, oh, I forgot to log my email, I am sending emails, I forgot to log something, or I am having meetings, I forgot to log a meeting. Now EBSTA is going to go, yeah, you did, or no, you didn't. Because you can't argue with the mail server. Like if it went through the mail server, it did happen. If it didn't go to the mail server, it probably didn't happen, right?
Yeah. I think you've also answered a reg question. So folks sent in some questions when they registered, and someone was asking about how to get rep buy-in to buy in on the importance of data integrity, and you've kind of just answered it already.
Yeah, I think our reps they're not against data integrity, right? I mean, they want to make sure that when they see something in Salesforce that it is accurate, if it's assigned to them, that they're supposed to go after it. And we've done I think we've done a good job at Lean Data of letting people know, where our source of truth lies, and if they need to challenge it, how they challenge it. And then, we RevOps kind of acts as the referee, right? So we're like, hey, because one of a big challenge, and this is across any company, I think, is employee counts, right? Like you get an employee count from, let's say ZoomInfo, right? And ZoomInfo says, aha, they have 1,000 people. Well, the second you put that 1,000 number into Salesforce, it's wrong because they hired another person. Now it's 1,001, right? So, and then ZoomInfo doesn't update their stuff daily. So a lot of times the best source for employee count numbers, if you need to export a number, is ZoomInfo, because the probably better source is LinkedIn, but LinkedIn doesn't let you export the number. So it's like that ends up being kind of the balance that we look at. So if we see that, ZoomInfo says one thing, a rep, in the process of their discovery, and starts to go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator and sees, ZoomInfo says it's 1,000 people, but now I see it has 1,500 because they're a fast growing company. And 1,500, that's not my patch anymore. And they let us know. They say, hey, RevOps, we have a Slack channel called Ask RevOps. And they just post in there and say, hey, here's an account that just got assigned to me. ZoomInfo says it's 1,000. LinkedIn says it's 1,500. Can you take a look at it, make a call so I can make sure that I'm going after it correctly? If it's not, I want to make sure it gets off to the right person. And so there's a really good culture at our company of making sure, that data is correct, because everyone wants to make sure at the end of the day that, it's not like, I have an account that's really 1,500. I'm going to go after it now, because, if we do find out later in the process that, hey, this company is 1,500 and you didn't call it out, we're going to call you out on it, right? It's like, look, you should have told us in the process of your discovery, once you found out that it had more employees and it would not be in your patch, you need to tell us. And so we really have a good culture of that at Lean Data, which is something I'm really proud of.
So you have a data-driven culture. That's
interesting.
We
do, very much
relevant.
So. Yeah. And really it's like, a lot of our territories are employee count based, right? So like when an SDR, it starts at the very beginning. If an SDR sees that the employee count's wrong, they're really quick to tell us, hey, this is out of my segment, get it out of my name. I don't like, this isn't for me to work. Someone else needs to work it. And then we work really fast to get it to the right name so that the right reps are following up on it.
That's awesome. And the fact that you do have a data-driven culture, when we were on with Brad 2 weeks ago, he was saying that change is inevitable and you have to adapt to change. So it seems like, lean data is kind of already there with that change culture
Oh
piece.
yeah.
How are you doing
That
that
was a that was
evaluation?
a that was a big one. That was a big one we did last year. So,
Mhm.
you know, we changed our philosophy around how we assign accounts, right?
Okay.
So, last year it was very, if you have this zip code, then it's this rep, right? And I'm just like, I threw that out the window. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. Like you get down to the zip code, then you're getting into referee because someone moved across the street, the zip code changed. I'm like, there's way too much, too many cycles being spent on this. Let's just make it west, central, east. All right. We'll divide it by state. And then what we do is we do a dynamic assignment of accounts, leveraging lean data, something we support, and we do it in conjunction with 6sense. So what 6sense does at the account level is they say, hey, here's an account that's interested in lean data based on these signals, right? And then once that happens, it gets assigned. And then we put it in the round robin. If it's west, it goes to someone on the west. If it's central, it goes to someone on central. If it's east, it goes to someone on the east. And so now what reps know is like when they get assigned an account, it's not because it's like it just falls into their patch. They get assigned an account because not only does it fall into your patch, but it's also hot. Like there is some intent behind it, right? 6sense has said, hey, these people are searching on terms, they're consuming your marketing content, right? We see we have lean data has an engagement product. We see that they're engaging in our marketing assets, right? So we can see that like, hey, there's reasons why we want to make sure we get this assigned to an SDR and follow it up on as soon as possible. So if the account is quote unquote dormant, right? We don't assign it to anybody. We don't, so anything that's assigned to somebody is assigned because there's something happening and we want them to take action immediately. And so
Mhm.
they get that's their patch. And so again, like that's why, when an SDR gets assigned an account, they find that the employee count's wrong. They want to get it out of their name because they know that it's a hot account for somebody and they want to make sure that the right person's following up on it. And so that's another, a way that we've, kind of turned upside down the philosophy of how you assign accounts.
Mhm.
You know, and what we will do with those accounts too is like if we know that it's active, if we know that there's active intent and there's people consuming content, there's people searching search terms, it's going to stay in your name. If that stops and then time expires and then you don't do anything with the account, it comes out of your name, right? So we'll throw it back into the pool. It's like, okay, look, the account you didn't get a meeting, you talked to people, they didn't reply back to you. Okay, well, let's move on to the next thing. We're gonna get this out of your name, and then we'll get you the next account that's coming up hot, according to our what our indicators say.
Mm. Oh, so much data. I love this philosophy that you have. And we're not super close to time, but I did really want to ask you this question about data. So this question has been asked the other Lightning Talk series as well, but someone who registered asked the most unlikely but helpful data set you've used. And I feel like you've got a really good answer for this.
Oh, data set.
Mhm.
I mean, there's the approach that I've always taken it is, when I've come to an organization, I want to make sure two things are happening, right? I want to make sure that somebody, not RevOps, right? Because I don't think this is RevOps' job, has identified what the ICP is, right? What is your ideal customer profile look like? Like I can help you put that together, but it's really probably somebody on the product marketing or someone on the demand. Someone on the marketing team should have at least said, hey, this is our ICP. This is the ideal profile of the account we need to be going after, right? So I take that, I say, aha, okay, got that. Now, within that account, who are the right personas, right? So who are the right personas that we want to go out pursue within that ICP? And then, usually there's 3 or 4, right? And then ideally, again, marketing has, driven their content around those personas. And then it's my job from RevOps to say, okay, I know what our ICP is. I know what our personas are. Let me go get that data from our data provider, whoever it is, primarily for us at Lean Data, we use ZoomInfo. We've used Clearbit as well in the past. There are some really good companies out there that do nothing but data. you go to them, you get those accounts, you get the names. We use for names, we also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's painfully expensive, right? Like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is probably the most expensive piece of tech that we use. So I'm very much I police it a lot to make sure that it's, if you get a license, you better be using it. Cause I only give licenses to people that I know are using it because it's so expensive. But you do get a lot of really good name data from LinkedIn Sales Navigator around personas, around search terms. LinkedIn does a really good job with that. And then, ZoomInfo happens to have a really good plugin to be able to say, okay, hey, when you're viewing this LinkedIn Sales Navigator page, you can actually export the person into Salesforce with a single click using a Chrome plugin, which is great. So for the sales team, they all know, okay, hey, I'm going to add it as a lead. Lead goes into Salesforce, gets converted, through lean data, does the matching and routing, gets assigned to the right person, and then they're off to the races. So they can add them to the sales engagement, whatever they're using. We use both Outreach and SalesLoft because they're both partners of ours. I know people find that strange, but they are both partners. I have opinions on both, obviously, but they use their whatever platform they're using to make sure that they're added to the cadence or the sequence that we have set up based on that persona. And then they're doing their prospecting based, they're executing on their sequences, on their cadences, and making things happen.
Nice. I love it. Well, we've only got 4 minutes left, but I think this is a great question to wrap us up. As someone asked, there's always more data, always more metrics to potentially measure. How do you keep yourself and stakeholders really reined in and focused?
Maintained and focused. So like I talked about it before, when I said source of truth, that is something that we got our CRO on board with right away. Because like our CRO has seen this before, right? Him and I both, we've worked together in the past. And so it's like, we've both seen it where it's like, look, if you don't lay down the law and say, look, this is where the data that goes into Salesforce comes from this source, and this source is truth. Like if you don't lay the foundation like that, you're going to be all over the map, right? Because people be like, well, but look, their address is here, and then here it says this, and then I search it on Google and it says that, right? You get a lot of I don't want salespeople doing I don't want them spending any cycles around that, right? So we've tightened it very much to say, look, our source of truth is our data enrichment provider. Our data enrichment provider is ZoomInfo. If you think something is wildly wrong, and like for employee counts, I think we say it's 30%. Like if the number of employees that you find in LinkedIn or another source is 30% different than from what ZoomInfo says, tell us, go to RevOps, right? Ask RevOps. We'll look at it, we'll research it, we'll make the call. And I can tell you, we will change things because ZoomInfo, for the reasons I said, isn't perfect, right? Like the second that ZoomInfo says 1,000 people, it's wrong because it's, somebody hires another person, right? ZoomInfo, I think I don't know how often they update their data, but it's I think at least every quarter they look at employee counts. But like you have a hot, fast growing company, you're going to miss, they're going to double in size. And, if you want to get after them when they're hot, you want to get them to the right person, you want to make sure that data is accurate. So, we make the call to say, okay, hey, look, ZoomInfo has the data wrong. We're going to take this LinkedIn number instead. So we do a lot of that. The other thing that we do around data is we do have personas very tightly defined also. So when we look at Salesforce and they look at the data that's in there, titles are we try to make titles correct. We try to make we default to the mobile cell phone number. Obviously with pandemic, that's really the number you want to call, right? So you don't want to, one of the things that I noticed when I first got here was like we were importing the office number, right? And I'm like, wait, office number, like we're all working from home. You're going to call someone's office number. You're going to have SDRs making all these phone calls. They're never going to have any connects. So we flipped to defaulting to the mobile number from ZoomInfo if they have it. If they don't have it, then we default to the desk number. If they don't have the desk number, we default to the office number. So you're setting up things like that to make sure that the data in Salesforce is what they're looking at. It's what they're working from. It is their source of truth. But if there are mistakes, they have a channel on Slack to let us know, to investigate, to take a look at it. And, I mean, a day doesn't go by where there's somebody on the team, we have a team of about 50 people between the SDRs and AEs. Somebody's, pointing out that something's wrong because data is stale and we need to make an update.
You've got that culture of data-drivenness. I love
Yes.
it. All right, well, it's exactly 12:30. I don't know how you timed that so perfectly. It's time to wrap. Thank you to the folks who attended this morning. We loved having you here. Thank you to Scratchpad. Be sure to check Scratchpad out. And Dawn, thank you so much. I know it's kind of early in the morning for you.
Oh, no big deal. 9:30. Like
So,
I'm
yes.
totally up and running. I'm a morning guy. So.
Oh, good. Well, we're glad you're here. This was awesome. And we can't wait to see everyone for our next event for the Lightning Talk series, which is happening next week. We're so excited to continue doing this series. Thank you again and have a wonderful rainy or sunny day. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.